Hello. Welcome to Enterprise Architecture Podcast. Today we will talk about preliminary phase in TOGAF 9.2. Let's go for it.
But maybe haven't had the time or energy to really dig into. And today we're diving into something that's crucial for anyone who wants to understand how big organizations actually make change happen. The Open Group Architecture Framework, or TOGAF for short.
That's right. We're not just skimming the surface here. You're getting a deep dive into the often overlooked but incredibly powerful preliminary phase of TOGAF.
It's like we're handing you a treasure map to corporate strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know preliminary phase might not sound thrilling, but stick with us. This is the secret sauce that can make or break a company's digital transformation.
It's true.
You're going to see how seemingly small decisions in the planning stage have ripple effects on massive projects.
Yeah, before any software is written, before a single line of code is debated, there's a whole world of strategic thinking that has to happen. TOGAF provides the framework for that thinking. It helps organizations avoid costly missteps by aligning their business goals with their IT infrastructure from day one.
And what's fascinating to me is that this isn't just an IT thing. We're talking about people, processes, and technology all working together. I was reading about a company, let's call it Company X. They had this brilliant idea for a new mobile app. I mean, it was truly innovative, could have been a game changer in their industry. But here's the thing. They rushed headfirst into development without considering how it would integrate with their existing systems, their customer service processes, even their internal training protocols.
Oh no, what happened?
It was a predictable disaster. The app launch was a mess, customers were frustrated, and internally it created chaos. They ended up scrapping the whole project. It cost them millions. Imagine if they'd used a framework like TOGAF. Specifically, the groundwork laid in the preliminary phase.
Right.
They could have anticipated those hurdles and maybe even turned the whole thing into a huge success story.
Absolutely. And that's what's so critical about the preliminary phase. It's about asking the important questions before you start building. What are our actual goals? What resources do we have? And crucially, how will this new project fit into the overall structure of the organization?
It's like you wouldn't just start building a skyscraper without detailed blueprints, a solid understanding of the ground it's being built on, and making sure the city's infrastructure can even handle a building that size.
Exactly. And in the world of TOGAF, that's where relating the management frameworks comes in. You need to see how this new project, be it a digital transformation, a new software system, anything, fits within the company's existing management structures. Are you using agile project management? Waterfall. How does this impact your budgeting and resource allocation? These are all things the preliminary phase forces you to address.
That's where things go from a high-level overview to the nitty-gritty details, right? So we've established that the preliminary phase is all about laying that strong foundation, but what are the actual building blocks? Where do you even begin?
That's where the real magic starts to happen. We're talking about things like defining the scope of the architecture project, figuring out who the key stakeholders are, and perhaps most importantly, getting everyone on board from day one.
Speaking of getting everyone on the same page, the next crucial element in the preliminary phase is securing buy-in, not just from the tech team, but from every corner of the organization.
You're absolutely right. And we see that highlighted in the section, Confirm Governance and Support Frameworks. You need a sponsor, someone at a senior level who champions the project and provides that top-down support. Because, let's face it, even the most brilliant plans can fall apart if you don't have the backing of those holding the purse strings.
And this is where things get really interesting for me. We're not just talking about budget approvals here. We're talking about establishing the guiding principles for the entire project. It's like setting the rules of the game before you even start playing.
That's a great analogy. And you're right, it's a critical step. In the TOGAF world, this is where identify and establish architecture principles comes into play. These aren't just some vague mission statement type things either. We're talking about concrete guidelines that will inform every decision made throughout the project.
So give me an example. What kind of principles are we talking about here?
Well, think about things like security. In today's world, you can't develop any new system without baking in robust security protocols right from the start. Or scalability. Can your architecture handle it if the company triples in size? Or how about interoperability? Can this new system easily share information with your existing systems? These are the kinds of fundamental principles that, if overlooked in the preliminary phase, can lead to major headaches down the line.
It's like building that skyscraper with substandard materials or without enough elevators. You might not see the problem right away, but eventually those cracks are going to show.
Exactly. And it's much easier to get those principles right at the beginning than to try and retrofit them later.
Right. And that actually reminds me of something else that really stood out to me in the materials, this idea of tailoring the framework. It's not like TOGAF is this rigid one-size-fits-all thing, is it?
That's actually a really important point. COJAF is designed to be adaptable. The Select and Tailor Architecture Framework section emphasizes this flexibility. What works for a massive corporation like, say, Amazon, might not work for a small startup, and that's okay.
So it's all about finding the right fit, just like those bespoke suits you see in those fancy menswear shops.
Exactly. And that's where the expertise of the people leading this preliminary phase comes in. They need to be able to look at the organization, the project goals, and the available resources, and figure out which aspects of TOGAF to emphasize and which might need to be adapted to fit their specific needs.
Makes sense. It makes you realize that these enterprise architects, they're kind of like architects in the traditional sense. They need vision, a deep understanding of the materials they're working with, and the ability to adapt to the unique challenges of each project. But let's not forget about the tools. You mentioned tools earlier, and I'm curious how that all fits into the preliminary phase. It seems like we're getting into the weeds a bit here.
We are, but it's important. Remember, implement architecture tools is a key part of this phase. And you're right, it can seem a bit overwhelming, but even in this early stage, having the right tools can make all the difference.
Okay, so walk me through it. What kind of tools are we talking about, and how do they help in the preliminary phase?
Think about something like a repository for all your architecture assets. This could be software like True or Lianix, which helps you keep track of all your business capabilities, applications, technologies, and more. It's a central hub where everyone involved in the project can access the same information, ensuring consistency and reducing the risk of misunderstandings.
So in the skyscraper analogy, this would be like having a digital blueprint that everyone from the architects to the contractors can access and work from.
Exactly. And it's not just about storage. These tools can also help you analyze data, model different scenarios, even generate reports. They can help you answer those critical what-if questions that inevitably come up in the planning process.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to wait until you're halfway up constructing your skyscraper to realize you forgot to include plumbing.
Precisely. And just like with the principles, getting those tools in place early on sets you up for smoother sailing down the line. It's all about mitigating risk and setting your project up for success.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the importance of stakeholder buy-in, establishing those guiding principles, tailoring the framework, and even implementing the right tools. It seems like the preliminary phase is all about asking the right questions and getting everyone on the same page before you even start building.
Exactly. It's about minimizing surprises and maximizing your chances of success.
This has been really interesting, but I have to admit, all this talk of frameworks and tools, it can feel a bit abstract. So let's bring it back down to earth for a moment. For our listener out there, maybe they're just starting their career or maybe they're a seasoned pro. What's the big takeaway here? Why should they care about the TOGAF preliminary phase?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something I'm always emphasizing. Understanding the preliminary phase, even if you never actually use TOGAF formally, gives you a real leg up in any organization.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me.
Think about it this way. Most people in an organization, they're focused on their specific tasks, their department's goals, and that's important. But those who understand enterprise architecture, they see the bigger picture. They understand how all those individual pieces fit together, where the potential bottlenecks might be, how decisions made in one department can impact others.
It's like having that 30,000-foot view of the entire organization instead of just seeing your little corner of the office.
Exactly. And with that perspective comes power. Imagine you're in a meeting and there's a debate about a new software purchase. Everyone else is focused on the features, the price, the usual things. But because you understand the principles established in the preliminary phase, you're able to ask, those insightful questions that cut to the core.
Will this integrate with our existing systems? Does it align with our long-term security protocols? Is this vendor even thinking about scalability?
Yes. You become that invaluable voice in the room, the one who can connect the dots and ensure that decisions are made with the organization's best interests and its strategic goals at heart.
Wow. When you put it like that, it seems like understanding this stuff isn't just helpful. It's almost essential for anyone who wants to climb that corporate ladder or even just be respected as a strategic thinker.
It's true. Whether you're leading a digital transformation, evaluating a vendor proposal, or even just trying to understand the direction your company is headed, this knowledge gives you a lens through which to view those activities with clarity and strategic insight.
It's like having X-ray vision into the decision-making process. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the often overlooked but incredibly powerful preliminary phase of TOGAF, what's the one thing you hope our listener will take away and apply to their own work, their own careers?
Remember that successful change, whether it's in business or in life, starts with a solid foundation. It's about asking the right questions, considering all the angles and getting everyone on the same page before you start building. That's the power of the preliminary phase, and it's a lesson that applies far beyond the world of IT.
Beautifully put. It's been an incredible journey exploring the often hidden world of enterprise architecture. And for those who want to keep the learning going, we'll provide a link to the full text of the TOGAF preliminary phase document in the show notes. Trust me, it's worth a read. Until next time, keep asking those tough questions, keep digging for those deep insights, and keep on diving.
Thank you for listening to us. We hope you enjoyed it. Please comment and if possible, subscribe.